Welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi, and welcome to Positive Talk. Our show features the best positive stories and people from around the globe as we endeavor to answer the universal question of why am I here and what is my purpose? Understanding that can change everything, and knowing your greatness is fundamental to living your best life. So join us right now as together we work to create the adventure of our lifetime.
Whoa.
Pardon me. I'm so choked up to see you again.
Well, thank you.
It is amazing. Terrie Christine is with us, and I'm.
Oh my. And he's coughing, and we'll just hold the space. Get it all out, my friend.
Thank you so much. Have you ever been about to say something and then something goes down the wrong way, and it's like, that ain't gonna work so good.
Usually at the dinner table.
Yeah. When
Not live on air.
when I'm sending mashed potatoes across the room at the dinner table because I'm coughing.
Oh my
and
gosh.
stuff. And Terrie Christine, it's so great to have you here. How are you?
I am awesome and amazing. It's great to be back. I feel like I'm with family again. And so I really enjoy coming back time and time again. So I hope people are tuning in.
Oh, they are. And you're going to be everywhere as usual because you've got so many cool things to talk about. And we've talked about energy work, and we've talked about intuition, and we've talked about healing and stuff. And we came up with something I think that is really a cool idea to talk about, and also is something that is paramount in the human condition. And it happens to all of us at one point that we feel like, well, let me ask you, have you ever had a friend and you had a relationship with them, and then suddenly they ghost you, or they say something to somebody else that is totally out of character for you, and we would call that betrayal of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
And people tend, well, let me ask you, why do people do that?
So first off, I want to tell you, I really am very present in people, places, and things. And what I've been noticing with my clients, with friends, with people posting, that betrayal seems to be the theme in this quarter of the year, and we can label it that. And it's very interesting how it's coming up. You can call it the stars are aligned or the planets or whatever, but it's interesting to see that. And when a person, there's very many different types of betrayal, and that's what I'm seeing. So I want to label just the topic of betrayal, but there are quite a few variations of it, from friends to friend, business partners to business partners, intimate partners to intimate partners, and then what comes up. And fear has a lot to do with it. There's only two real emotions technically. There's fear and love, and that's usually at one end of an end result. And when a person is moving through the betrayal, not the person that received it, but the person that's getting it or giving it, excuse me, then there is a form of fear attached to it. And the fear can be various different ways, from no one will like me over that person. And again, I'm speaking about the person who's giving the betrayal, or subconscious limiting belief being risen from the subconscious level. And those are the hardest ones, because the person giving that betrayal is going to have a lot of difficulty either seeing why it's happening when it's happening, and they'll use various different excuses because they're using their eyes and ears as thinking in the present moment that whatever's happening, they're visualizing it as happening, and then they accept it, versus going within. And so now you have the giver and the receiver. When you have the receiver and the person receiving that betrayal, there are multiple layers of emotions that will arise from that betrayal. And it's really quite profound. I just wrote a Facebook post about the various levels in the order that it happens and what a person goes through on that deepest dark, let's call it that way, because when you're receiving that betrayal, it's like, what? And it can make you feel like it's heavy and dark. And then processing each one of those emotions until the very end, and the last one is freedom. But we can go over each one of them and the understanding of it, so that you don't feel lost, you don't feel alone, because each one that goes through those layers of emotions, the first thing they think is, I'm alone, or this person did this and nobody else has experienced that. Well, I can tell you right now, there's a lot of people going through various levels of betrayal that, I've seen my clients coming to me. And again, it's like this topic of the quarter that's coming up. And it makes me wonder, because this is all energy. You can call it the stars, the planets in alignment, the energy field of the triggers of the world, and how people are uh, working through fears that can come out as betrayal because they're hurt. And what do they say? Hurt people, right?
Yes, and so I wanted to ask you because as you've been talking, I've been thinking that betrayal in one of its forms is based on fear, and the fear of the story that you're telling yourself about what you believe the other person is saying, thinking, or doing that
Yes.
may or may not have any reality to it, but
Right.
it's something that in your own mind you're saying, "Oh, I need to protect myself
That's
because
right.
this person is coming after me, or this person is not treating me right," or but it's a story that you're making up in your own head. And oftentimes when you are the recipient of that, they don't come to you and say, I feel like you're betraying me. It's all a thing in their head. Is that right?
That's right. It's what it is that they're creating, but they were triggered. And so when a person is responding to something, that response is from a trigger. And that trigger can be people, places, and things. Okay. And so we can talk about a betrayal of platonic relationship, two girlfriends, and it can be multiple things, like you're looking at your other friend, you're the one who's the giver of the betrayal, and you're like, the other person who's receiving the betrayal is better than me. Again, that's something that they created. We're all created equal. That's something they put in their head. Or the jealousy of can come up. The fear, I'll never have what she has, or I'll never have the people that she has, right? And then it snowballs into the giver creating something they feel they need to protect themselves over. Isn't that messed up?
Oh, Terry, I gotta tell you, by the way, we're talking with Terrie Christine. If you want to go to her website, go to Terrie Christine, that's IE Christine.com. And you can work with her, you can find out all about her and stuff. I have a quick story to tell you that years ago when I first got into broadcasting, there was a guy, I'll call him Mark. I don't know, I don't want to use his real name, but and we decided we were gonna go do a radio show together. And So we started doing it and stuff, and it turned out that I was a little bit more savvy about it because I'd done stuff like that in the past and so forth and so on. And there was a group of people around us. And at one point they said, you guys are going to be on the side of a bus. You guys are going to be famous and stuff. But as time went, he started getting told by this group about things that they assumed I was doing that were not in tune with what they thought that it should be. Although nobody asked me,
Mm,
I was outside of this particular loop,
mm,
and they had some, as it turns out, some really in-depth conversations
mm,
based upon one side of the story
mhm,
because nobody ever asked me.
hmm,
And finally, this gentleman presented me with a contract because of the lack of faith or whatever it was, or the stories that they were saying, that this
mhm,
you need to do this in order for me to work with you there, or I'm not going to do it. And it became a bit of a betrayal of
mm,
things, but it was all based upon the hearsay of
mhm,
people around him who he respected at the time that
mhm,
had different thoughts. This because we suddenly were on the radio, and trust me, this happens to me all the time. But
mhm.
because we were suddenly on the radio, people were saying, "Oh, they're on the radio. That makes them a special person. That
Right.
makes them different. That makes them better." And that's not
Yeah.
true at all, by the way. But they were like, "Okay, so now he wants to be the leader of this program, and so you need to protect yourself from him," even though I was paying for the program and that I was very giving to him as far as being a co-host and stuff. So it became a huge betrayal, but
Mm,
nobody ever asked me a thing. To this
mm,
day,
mm,
Christine or Terry, I
mhm,
still don't know
mm,
the depth of everything that went on and why
mm,
it happened. That happens all the time to us, doesn't it?
mm, mm. Yes.
In a word.
Yes. So, each of us as an individual has a blueprint or history from our childhood. And so betrayal is a trigger from the childhood. And so in the case where you just discussed, it's like someone getting over me or the fear of not knowing. And I'm going to just throw a few things out and we can go back and chat with it about a little bit. The fear of not knowing, the fear of retribution or it turning into something I don't want. Eh, 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 life can be lived so much easier if we totally communicate. Communication is the key component to working through anything, anything. But what will happen is that our baby souls, because the subconscious baby soul is thinking, feeling, and knowing that, well, I had mom and dad that argued all the time, and the louder the person got, the quieter the other person got. And so I'm fearful of confrontation. And then that can creep in into the things that you were just discussing that, oh, confrontation, or oh, he'll get over us, or how can we believe him, or let's just talk amongst ourselves, versus bringing you in to discuss the facts so that you can share your portion of what it is that they're assuming and then being able to come to a conclusion that will be satisfactory to everybody.
It's really interesting the human dynamics that goes into that whole system of how people, number one, they don't listen and they don't ask. If you don't ask a question, if you don't try and get clarification on this is what I saw you do, or this is what I heard you say, is that what you
Mhm.
meant?
Mhm. Or, "Ooh, I felt that, and so that kinda bothered me. Can we talk about that?"
Exactly, because that is a cornerstone to to having, a really good relationship with somebody because so but to and you said, what do they say about assume? It makes an ass out of you and me.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
you're just assuming, and why is it, and why is it that when people assume stuff, they always assume the worst? Not always, but most of the time.
Yeah, most of the time. Because if they're assuming, they're just gonna roll with what their biggest fears are, right? And the assumption of and if somebody's assuming and they're communicating, they can say, "Well, I assume that this could be happening. Can we talk about that or can we work through that?" And then you're gonna get your clarity of what you're assuming without even knowing, right? Meaning you assumed it before you even found out, the details and the facts of what you assumed.
It's just diabolical. I'm glad you wrote this on Facebook, and we need to maybe we'll put it on positivetalkradio.net or Brushwood Media and stuff because it would be that betrayal is a huge thing. By the way, we're talking with Terrie Christine. We're going to come back with more. Go to our website, terriechristine.com, and if you are a real estate agent or want to be a real estate agent or think you could be a real estate agent, but you have no idea how, and things are just not working out, you need to listen to this because this guy's got it figured out and he can help you. We'll be right back.
You became a real estate agent for freedom, success, and real momentum. So why are you still stuck waiting for closings to save you? I'm Ophir Adar, founder of Real Momentum, and I help agents like you become seven-figure earners. My first client that I coached, brand new agent, made $250,000 back in 2006. What's the secret? You feed your white wolf. That's the part of you that's bold and unstoppable and a closer and able to build rapport quickly. So click Get Listings at Real Momentum and let's unleash your real estate potential.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, and Terrie Christine is here. She's been on the show before. She's awesome. She's an intuitive energy healer. She works with you to help you see maybe the dark patches that you don't see in yourself, because none of us do until, and now that we're thinking about it, and to continue that story about that betrayal of me, but the reality is there was we had a group, and we were part of this spiritual group, and we created something called the Gathering, where we would all meet and we would talk about spiritual matters and we would meditate and we do some stuff. Well, in trying to generate interest in the radio show, I went to another facility that was called the Crystal Cave, and they also were interested in doing a group like that, and to create one, and they wanted to pay me as a sponsor,
Nice.
and so I thought, I'll go there and we will sponsor this from the radio show, and we'll see if we can generate another chapter, if you will, of the Gathering. And I would run that one, and my friend would run the other one. Well, he considered that a betrayal because I was going to go do the other one. And for me, I was thinking that this was a great way to expand our reach. And
Mhm.
he was saying I was betraying, and he was thinking, I think, that I was betraying him. That happens a lot too because nobody's
Mhm.
communicating.
Right. Yeah, it's what he was thinking, that you had exclusivity with him, and however that was being presented. So in his head, he's thinking, "Oh, wait, now you're going somewhere else." And you didn't, and now that person is saying, "You didn't talk to me." And then you're thinking, "Well, you didn't talk to me." And if, this person is already starting to feel that things are not being supported to him, he should have easily came to you and said, "Hey, I just heard you're doing this," or, "Oh, am interested in your new endeavor and what it is, and I thought we had something going." Honestly, having even the beginning of that conversation and being able to communicate clearly is going to eliminate a lot of that end result that is hurt and feeling betrayed, right?
Well, yeah, to amplify that point, the group that we were at, um, they had a business. And they were running the business out of that, and they were charging people to be members of that group. And so, therefore, because I was doing something for free in another location in support of one of the advertisers, they they had it in their mind that I was quote unquote taking business from them and taking money from them. And so that's how they talk to him in regards to why would he do that and take stuff from us when he's going, when the intention was pure.
Mhm.
I wanted to give more people the opportunity. One was in Kent and the other one was in Tacoma, so 20 miles away from each other. Those people would not meet in any way, and so
Mhm.
I thought it was a good thing to do.
Mhm.
And so I didn't understand when they felt like I had betrayed them.
Mhm. It all comes down to the subconscious, right? So if that individual had a father who would make false promises, or, "Oh, I'll come to your baseball game," and then not show up or say I was late, or, I couldn't go because I had to work late, or there was other things your mom wanted me to do and I forgot. That can come across as a form of betrayal to that little boy. And then that little boy in those incidences, and again, this is where I work in the subconscious space, because as adults, he's only saying, "Oh, it's you. You've done this wrong. You've done this to me," versus stop. I call it stop, drop, and roll. Stop it.
Especially when you're on fire.
Exactly. So stop creating the stories in your head and reflect on, okay, there's these two different people, me and another one, and this is what I thought I did for him, and this is what he's doing now. And that kind of stings. So I'm gonna call. I'm gonna talk to him. We've done work together, so I'm gonna chat. And then when you're having that conversation in your head, ask yourself, when did I feel this last? How old was I and who was I with? Because when you ask those questions and you trust whatever story pops in, or whatever this feeling or connection of emotion, you'll be able to dive deep into. You may not get it in a couple of minutes. It could take you a couple of days by asking those questions randomly while you're in the shower, when you're putting your shoes on, and you will get your answers. But most people are going to use the eyes and the ears as their reality when that's not the case. It's about feeling and the subconscious. So feeling and the subconscious. So there's two different things here. And
And
so he could have been triggered by what appeared to be a false promise from you. Again, appeared, because he could have been triggered by his own dad making false promises, or bait and switch, or offering and then pulling it away, meaning whatever that offer was as a child, and then getting triggered by it. And you were simply the catalyst for the trigger. Does that make sense now?
oh, absolutely, because he grew up in New Jersey, and he uh, had a moment or two when he would be loud and stuff. And I said, do you guys as a family in New Jersey, do you argue ever? And he says, oh man, that's how we talk. We're
Mhm.
always, hey, you do, hey man, you do it, nah.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
back and forth that way. And, and
Right.
so he was like, that's it, that's just how it is, that's what we do over there, and everybody is that way. And it's like, but that's not a
Mhm,
really good way of
mhm,
getting in touch with each other, because you've
mhm.
always got this block up.
That's right. So it's very interesting that you brought that up, because I was in a relationship about 9 years ago, and it lasted 5, but when he communicated with me, it was always very aggressive. And it wasn't this normal sit down at the table or, in a room discussing things. It was always confrontational and argumentative. And over time, at first I was sort of calm in my zone, anchored into grounding and just going, okay, that's him doing whatever he's doing. But think about it. Over time, if you're getting this repetitively in in a relationship, you're going to cause yourself to put barriers over your heart, barriers over what's going on. You're going to feel attacked because it's going to wear you down. And when I finally said, look, I can't take this anymore. I don't understand why you're always arguing with me. He goes, I'm not arguing with you. My parents, they argued all the time. They were always like fighting. And he said, I'm just trying to tell you, I'm getting my words out. And I'm like, it doesn't have to be that way. Like you said, it doesn't have to be that way. But he's a product of his repetitive upbringing. And he owned it, which now, folded into the relationship that we are having. He thinks it was normal when my neighborhood, meaning my mom, my dad, my grandparents, they never argued. My grandparents were like, sit down at the table, let's talk, and I never had that form of arguments. And so to me, when I hear it, it's almost like shatter. It's like, ugh, and a person who lives like that and who has experienced that in their childhood all their life, it appears normal to them. But for someone like me, it's like so out of the normal. I felt like every time the dog barked or he did, my brain shattered. And so there's where the duality is, right? Of one person thinking this is their norm and another person having a different norm, and then they clash and they trigger. But when we are talking about it, instead of feeling like, why are you doing that? It's an opportunity, because none of us are telling each other what to do, but we can have triggers from mom and dad of having them telling us what to do when it's restrictive or controlling. Again, that becomes part of your subconscious and then triggers as an adult, right? And so now you have, both of this, somebody who argues a lot and somebody that, no, it's calm and ease and grace that they want. But when that person with the calm and ease and grace saying, hey, I haven't experienced this before. So instead of pushing back, it's okay to say, oh, look at me. I'm doing what my parents did. Oh, wow. I should respond differently because she just said she's not used to it. But what'll happen is that other one will force the one who's not used to it to make it used to them. And then you have this back and forth because you can't force somebody into your old patterns of your childhood. And what the other one is trying to have you see is there can be a different way. Do you really want to get out of that?
And it becomes insidious because especially when now you're a very pretty lady and you're very expressive when you smile and stuff. And he had to know that the way he was behaving by the look on your face, and it's almost like taking a slap in the face
Yeah.
when somebody does that to you. But he was so unaware of his basic emotions and how it was affecting another human being that he didn't even understand why you were questioning it, because hey, that's the way we do it, man. Everybody does that way, and we just argue until we get it done. That's what my friend said, and I said, I can't live like that.
That's right, because it's what they created, or it was created upon them as being their norm, instead of listening to what you just said and said, wow, I get that's all I know in the four walls of my upbringing, that they just argued all the time until they had a resolution. But I see that you're backing up or getting more quiet and then sharing it. That struggle, I'm struggling with that, just as I did and shared in my relationship. But because they owned it as their norm. Again, the subconscious. Consciously, as a child, you were hearing it, but then you owned it, saying, okay, this is norm. This is what I'm seeing every day in my upbringing. Then you own it, then it becomes part of your subconscious, and then things around you will trigger. So in this case, he says, oh, I'm going to tell you how it is. And he's going to force it out of you when you're backing up going, whoa, hold on. And instead of seeing each of us as being differently, of having our own upbringing differently, and not forcing what you have owned as your reality, it's not everyone else's. So that's why, relationships, platonic and intimate, can end up at a roadblock because one is forcing what they have owned as their reality from their upbringing, and the other one's going, no, this isn't working for me. This bothers me.
And the one that is being forceful because that's their upbringing, that really is, and we need to take a break, but there are two things. Isn't that a form of insecurity on his part because he doesn't feel secure enough to open up and to talk about his behavior in a different way? And also, why do we, because we've used the word trigger several times, and I would really like to delve into what is triggering and how does one get triggered, and why is it that even when we get triggered, we don't recognize that we are being triggered because, oh, that's just the way it is, or for whatever reason. We're talking with Terrie Christine. Can we talk about that when we come back?
Yes.
Yes. We're talking with Terrie Christine. She is an intuitive energy healer. Go to terriechristine.com and work with her because if you're in a position where you're being triggered and you have no idea earthly why, she can help you figure it out for yourself by asking you questions and helping you delve deep into the reasons why some of these things happen, which, by the way, can do something as simple as change your life. And we'll be right back.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
As you go about your daily life, look closer. As you gather with family and friends who love and support you, look closer. There are youth right in your community who don't have the home, warmth, and healing you have. So look closer. Every year across America, a staggering 4.2 million youth are homeless or trafficked. And for 50 years, Covenant House has worked relentlessly to keep them safe and protected. Tonight, 2,000 young people will sleep safely in a Covenant House bed. And tomorrow, they will wake up surrounded by love. They get clean clothes, hot meals, medical care, and a safe place to sleep. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In sites across America to help them fulfill the great promise of their lives. So look closer at Covenant House. To help or get help, go to covenanthouse.org.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Terrie Christine is our guest. And Terrie, I got to tell you, have you ever done something like break your right arm and then you have to deal with your left arm and it doesn't work as well when you're dealing with a mouse and stuff like that? I have that going on. And
oh,
yes, I broke my wrist and have got plates in it and all that kind of stuff. But what it's meant is that sometimes when I'm trying to make a transition, it isn't as clean as I'd like because my left hand it's getting better, but it doesn't work as well as my right doing stuff like that. So I just thought I'd explain myself.
okay. Oh my goodness. Well, I'm so sorry that has happened. Usually when something like that happens, you have to think about what you were thinking up to 30 days prior to this physical shift. Okay. And so hands mean creation. Is that your right hand you said?
Yes, my
Okay.
right wrist.
So left side is feminine, right side is masculine. So in the masculine state, what were you thinking about changing or creating in a masculine sense? Does it have to do, I feel like it's work related.
I would say it's work related because it's everything in my life is kind of related one with the other. But boy, you're good. It it has to do with changes in my own behavior, and as an example, my weight and all of this, because the show is continuing to grow. Thank you, universe. And so there, we're now on TV and stuff, and
Yes.
there's going to be more opportunity for me to do that. And people don't mind having an older guy on TV, but they're not really excited about a fat old guy. And so uh, I've
Anything
lost
goes.
exactly. I've lost 60 pounds in the
Congrats.
last 6 months. And so that was part of it. And,
Mhm.
but also, behaviors and stuff that I knew I needed to fix. And so
Mhm.
with the advent of my arm,
Mm.
it has given me the
Mhm.
opportunity to do some of the things that I knew I should be doing. And I'm not done yet, but I'm working on it and
Mhm.
stuff. So you're spot on, by the way.
So, as an intuitive energy healer, there are patterns, and the body will respond to what you're thinking and the emotional connections that you have. And so, if you're thinking that, I need to make these changes, I need to be more creative, I need to grab a hold of what I need to do, but I don't know where I'm going. And then what can happen is your outside influences will affect what you are saying, and your body's going to respond. So, however it is that you broke that was what you were thinking up to 30 days prior to. And this is where, as an intuitive, I'm diving deep in your subconscious, and people come to me all over the world and have these experiences, not just, physical, but emotional, where they're stuck and, shift out the stuck, right? And, feeling like they're rotating on the same story or can't let go of something. And that's where I can help people put their pieces of the puzzle together so that they're not going to be triggered by, just like you were explaining the other guy. And I want to go back to that real quick because I wrote down the word insecure, because he was brought up in a household that was aggressive and argumentative. That's
Yes.
not insecure emotion. So he's not insecure. He's just a part of his environment. He is just the record, the groove in what he saw, and that's normal for him, where it's not normal for you. So he's not coming out insecure, he's coming out aggressive because that's normal. And when they come out aggressive, or what they're saying, I have to come out aggressive so I'm heard. The louder I am, the more you're going to hear me. And that's a misnomer. That's not reality. Again, the aggressor is trying to force someone who's not as aggressive into their environment, and that doesn't work. Platonic or intimate relationship, it just doesn't work. And that's where, one who's being forceful may wanting the other to respond in the way that they're used to. They have to be able to see things differently. If another person is saying, this is like really bothering me, instead of trying to continue to live in what they were so used to having. Because think about it, if you have an emotionally disconnected parent and then you turn into an emotional disconnected adult, does that mean it's right that you have emotional disconnections with your partner or your children? Because you're only going to create not good enough children, or what's wrong with me children, because they can't get the connection from the adult, right?
Yeah.
Instead of diving deep, most people don't have the emotional presence, meaning, okay, stop, drop, and roll. Stop in what you're forcing upon the world, because I'm going to separate it from an individual, from the world, and say, what in my childhood environment was I experiencing that has turned me into this particular individual? You'll hear people say, well, that's just my personality. Well, your personality is created from your childhood.
I hear I hear that all the time. Well, that's just me. That's
That's
just
right.
how I roll. And
That's
and
right. And
it,
everyone can change. You just have to be ready, willing, and able and want to change. But most will say, well, you need to change. It's you. You're having the problem. I think I talked about this in maybe our first show where we were talking about where, if you have had a relationship and at the beginning of the relationship you were experiencing unacceptable behavior, maybe they're showing up later regularly than they said, or they're texting behind your back, or they're hiding their phone. That's unacceptable behavior, and the person that's seeing it or receiving it isn't saying anything because they'll say to themselves, if I just accept this, I'll show them how much I love them, or I don't want to appear to be insecure, so I'm not going to say anything. And that days, weeks turns into months and years. And finally, when it's so unacceptable to you, you speak up. The first sentence out of the other person's mouth is, what's wrong with you? You have changed. When in fact, they have been accepting it for so long and couldn't take it anymore, and now they're saying anything. So you haven't really changed, you have withheld, and you have accepted it. And that's where we have to really own our own situations, because we have accepted that behavior instead of saying anything at the beginning so that you could alter and change that behavior. You've kept your mouth shut, and now you have accepted it. And now they're blaming you for you've changed when you really haven't. You haven't spoken up.
that is brilliant. And I was just thinking about this because I think this is important that people need to understand, and I love your take on it. Mark grew up in a household where volume was king. They argued all the time, and whoever had the biggest volume would end up winning the argument and winning the day. In
Mhm.
my house, there were no arguments. My dad never got angry much, except when the police showed up. That wasn't very good. But he didn't get angry much. But even when he was angry, it was a quiet anger. And so when I experience anger being directed towards me, it triggers me to be angry towards the person who is being angry at me, and not saying, oh, I'm just going to blow it off. It's just Mark and it's just from his upbringing. It's like, okay, now he's attacking me
Mhm.
because nobody yells at me and
Mhm.
stuff like that. That's how insidious it is, isn't it?
Yes. And that's why the go back and forth, relationships break up, or the person who is the aggressor or changing the way they feel is that they don't know where to start, number one, with their own internal change. Again, they expect everyone else to change and not them. And, if we're seeing repetitive patterns, the first place we need to go back is our own internal situation. And so, not knowing where to start, there's a lot of emotion in that. Not knowing where to start is you start by reflecting on your childhood. For me, I've been doing intuitive work for almost 20 years, a little over 20 years actually, that it's easy for me when someone I always listen when I hear something from two different people, but it's the same situation or the same sentence or whatever. I can hear it once and I'll like take it as a magical seed and I'll put it in my energetic backpack. But when I hear it again in a very short period of time, it's like, aha, all right, what's going on? And then I reflect in me, because most people will just ignore it, or, oh, there it goes again. It's all these people. No, it's in you. But you have to choose to say, I don't want to cause or have or see that my actions are causing reactions. So how can I change? So something like what we're talking about, don't respond immediately. Take a breath before anything comes out of your mouth. It is as simple as pause. Take a pause, take a breath, then you're grounding yourself, and then you can communicate. So it may not come out as aggressive. And if you keep repeating those patterns, you will find the aggression sort of vanishes or tones down. And you find yourself changing, and then everyone will start saying, wow, you're in a good mood.
And that is when you make those changes, and they can be made. It's not easy
Yes.
sometimes, and you have to really be self-reflective to be able to do that, which is something that a lot of us, and well, you tell me, you do this work and I'm just the amateur, but is that something that a lot of us have trouble doing, to be
Yes.
self-reflecting about
Yes.
who we are, where we come from, the experiences that we've had, and
Yes.
why things trigger us?
Yes. Yes. It's first off, it's difficult, or you're labeling it difficult, right? The first thing, just flip it and say, this is easy. I'm going to figure this out, right? You have to be ready, willing, and able. And most, because they're labeling it hard, they don't know where to start, and it's everybody else and not me, because this is who I am, that they're like, I'm accepting me, so everyone else should too. Eh. And really, and wanting change is not from others, it's from self. It's about, okay, and then reflecting back in your childhood, it can be painful for some. I mean, I was listening to my favorite podcast is Soft White Underbelly. I love Mark, love him. And, when I listen to all the stories of, childhood trauma and what people are talking about, and how they ended up being worse than what they started or better than where they were. And just about that soul saying, I want more than what I have. I want more than what I have. Do you understand what I just said? So you'll find that even though you might have a really bad childhood, which I can reflect on that, and I am living in that space of knowing what that looks like. But I chose to say, I'm not going to have my own children feel or see or know what I experienced as a child. I'm also going to make sure that I don't project that on other people, because I want it different for me. I want ease and grace. I want. And so I am choosing to want what I want versus what I had. And then I'm going to say, no, I'm going to make those changes. But most will force other people to change, or say, I don't know what it is. I don't know how to do it. So they're going to continue to move on their merry way and continue to do that and continue to live in those patterns, and then create a trail of destruction,
And
because
that's
they're not willing to address what's going on in them.
because it's always somebody else's fault.
Bingo.
We're talking with Terrie Christine, and she is brilliant. And she diagnosed my arm just perfectly. Now, if you could just heal it and make it all better now, that would be great.
I'm good at that too.
I know, but we need to take a quick break.
You're so far.
We'll be back in 30 seconds. So everybody stay right where you are, and my arm will be totally healed. We'll be right back.
When the game is on the line, championship teams know the game plan. They communicate and work together to win. We all need a game plan to protect ourselves online. Talk to family and friends so they know how to stay safe too. Create strong passwords, turn on multi-factor authentication, update software, and recognize and report phishing, because online safety is not something you want to fumble. Get more game-winning tips at CISA.gov/secure our world. Then share them with family and friends.
I love playing that in the last quarter of this show, just because it's uplifting music and it makes everybody move a little bit and all that kind of good stuff. You're listening to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Terrie Christine is with us, and I got to tell you, you've been on the show several times. So go to either the Brushwood Media Archives, or you can go to positivetalkradio.net and search her, and you can listen to all of the shows that we've done together. She is magical in the work that she does. And I'm very fortunate that you like coming on the show. And you know what? You didn't even trigger me when you said that we weren't your favorite podcast.
I didn't even think about that. Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry. You're the top one.
No,
So
don't be, because that is, I if I had ego around this, I would not have done what I've done, quite frankly.
oh, that's amazing. And, I'm here to lift you. So, but, the reason why I end up gravitating toward soft white underbelly is because it has helped, well, it's humbleized me. It has helped me understand. I will, compare my childhood to someone else's, and I'll see they're now a prostitute or an escort or drug dealer or whatever it is. And I'm thinking, wow, I made it out alive. I've changed my entire life. And it could have looked like that for the things that I saw and experienced in my own childhood. Was I given anything more than most of them? And that's a really good question, because I've asked myself that. And I have to say no, because I was raised, even though, my parents were teenagers, having babies. My dad, was not around at all. And, you got to have your, it's to have a well balanced and to see a healthy relationship. It is important to have the mom and the dad there, but many of us don't. And my dad wasn't around. My mom was like a single mom, and then she struggled all the time. And the lack, delete that I experienced, and then saying, I chose to not want that. Just like your friend, and in his environment, he can choose not to be so aggressive. He can easily choose that. You can easily choose to say, I want to communicate this out. You can easily choose to say, I'm not feeling the same anymore, but there's something going on here that doesn't appear normal. So I'm going to buckle down, shut the door, get silent, and go within and work until I come out with my change. But many will just be, oh, let me just go to this little event, and it'll be my pill to change me, or I'll just go here, and then, oh, that person said I'm normal, so that's okay. But your experience and what's happened is not normal. So we just have to stop, drop, and roll.
And I just want to make this point, because I think it's important, and that is, in this particular case, that friend of mine, we were part of a spiritual group, and the spiritual group had a leader, and the leader tended to tell us how to behave, what we should believe, how to meditate, and all the things like that. But in the reality, what you just said never came up, which is go within.
Yeah,
And
crazy.
when you are going without, or using other people's examples and their philosophy and their point of view and stuff, and you value that more than you value your own self, that is a recipe for lack of success, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. When I talk to people, no matter who they are or what I'm reading, I want to celebrate them. I read an article, I think it was LeBron James. And then I think at the time, it was an article I read maybe a year ago. And I think when his son had the heart thing or whatever happened to him health wise when he was on the court, and LeBron stepped up and, we're going to help my son, and whatever was going on. And then I remember reading how he had helped his son get to a certain place in his career or life or whatever it was. And it was a while ago, but I do remember I responded with, "Congratulations. This is so wonderful that you are in the space to be able to help your son, to be able to do that." Where so many other people were judging and calling me a Nepo baby and, all that money could be used for something else. The fact is, why are we tearing someone down instead of lifting them up? We need to celebrate each one of us for our accomplishments, our manifestations, and what it is that we're creating. You can too. And that's what I even said. You can too. But instead that they'll sit back, and you'll find that in a family dynamic where there could be, 10 people, grandma, grandpa, uncles, aunts, niece, and then, one of them succeeds. And then there'll be half of them trying to say, "Who do you think you are?" Instead of lifting them up and saying, "Congratulations, your hard work, your dedication, your commitment, your manifestations of moving forward. Yes, let me have a hug." But we want to tear them down because we start looking at, "Well, I don't have it, so you shouldn't have it either." No, that's you holding yourself down. Nobody else but you.
Oh, exactly. And by the way, that LeBron story is his son was a college ball player and really good, and so he helped the Los Angeles Lakers, I believe it was, draft his son in the second round.
Oh, so you remember reading it. Okay. I
Yes,
couldn't
so
remember.
that they could play together. Because he was a 40-year-old man and his son was 20, and his career was ending. It's almost done now, but he really wanted to be able to say, "I played and mentored my son," and he got a lot of hate mail
Yes.
because
Horrible.
because of that, and it was like, do you people have no heart? I mean, what if you had the ability to get your kid onto a professional basketball team and to help mentor him along, and you wouldn't do it? What's the matter
Right.
with
Right. And he was doing it because it was his expertise, just like somebody who's a speaker and they might have a program. So they'll sell it to help others become well-known speakers and motivational speakers. So just because they paid for the program, the son is paying for his dad's program, meaning he has to be on time, he has to be dedicated, he has to practice. That's his pay to his dad.
Yeah.
He's not just sitting back going, "Give me the ball, dad," and then sign the document. He is working it. Let's celebrate, lift each other.
And he had to work harder than everybody else on the team, and his dad told him that, "Because you're my son, and they're gonna hold you to a different standard. Fair or unfair, that's just the way it was." Terrie Christine has been our guest. I'm so sad we've run out of time. You're gonna have to come back and do it again because you are so much fun, and Brachelle loves you to death, and I wish she was here, but she's busy doing her stuff. But we've got a minute left. Terrie, anything that you'd like to tell our audience, anything you'd like to add? By the way, go to terriechristine.com.
Thank you so much. So you can also find me on Facebook, where you can find that post that I was talking about, the emotions of going through betrayal, which is Terrie 333 on Facebook, or Terrie Christine, excuse me, Terrie Christine 333. But you can find free content and information on my website at terriechristine.com, and some other things on Instagram and so on and so forth. But I want to end with, as I stated, you can see I'm very passionate about what I do. I work in the subconscious space. It's very difficult to work in your own subconscious space because it can be from 3 to 1 years old. And working with someone like me can help you reveal the things that we're talking about. If you don't know where to start, then try to find alternative ways, because, if it's not working for you, don't sit back and just keep rotating the same thing, because you're doing the same patterns and you want change. So change from within. And I'm fully grateful, Kevin, to be here, and I can't wait to come back again.
Yeah, it will be so fun because we are your second favorite podcast. So, but I just want to leave everybody with this. When you're working with Terrie Christine, like she says on her website, let me help you help yourself. Nobody else can fix you but you. But sometimes it takes somebody to help you to see things a little bit differently so you can then say, oh, yeah, I get it now. Terrie Christine, thank you so much for being here.
I'm so honored. Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Our purpose is to provide everyone with a positive, entertaining, and educational experience. I would love your feedback and comments about the show, including possible topics and great guest suggestions. Please email me at kevin@kmmedia.pro. And remember, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got. That's Kevin